And particularly being in Windsor, for me, she loved it here. She spent most of her time here. Showing you around today is very much a case I'm trying to make sure.
Hello, royal enthusiasts. Take a seat, because we're about to dive into a moment that has the palace corridors buzzing and the world beyond leaning in closer. Picture it, now the sweeping grounds of Windsor Castle, autumn air crisp with whispers of destiny, and right in the center of it all, Prince William steps forward, not merely as heir, but as the unchallenged steward of the monarchy's future. It's October 2025, and what unfolded just days ago feels like the prologue to a brand new act in the grand royal story. William, accompanied by the poised elegance of Catherine, welcomed none other than the Crown Prince of Kuwait, His Highness Sheikh Sabah Al-Khalid Al-Hamd Al-Sabah. But this wasn't just another ceremonial handshake. No, this was William's debut in a role radiating quiet authority, a signal that the reins of power are beginning to slip into steadier, younger hands. Let's set the scene properly. For months now, questions have quietly thickened around the monarchy. King Charles III, ever resilient, has faced health battles no crown could protect him from. His ongoing cancer treatment, paired with the gradual delegation of duties, has fueled murmurs of a soft transition, a phrase whispered in tabloids and late-night palace briefings alike. And then came this Windsor moment. William arrived not as a supporting player, but as the official host, the one calling the shots on protocol and presentation. Catherine, radiant as ever, stood by his side, her very presence a lesson in subtle strength. On paper, it might have seemed like just another diplomatic reception, but peel back the layers, and what you see is the very blueprint of tomorrow's reign taking shape before our eyes. And what makes it so powerful isn't only the who or the where, it's the why. Royal watchers flooded their screens, dissecting every detail from Kensington Palace's carefully crafted Instagram release. William, in a suit tailored to perfection, extended his hand not just in welcome, but in guardianship. The Kuwaiti Crown Prince isn't just any guest, he's a key figure in Gulf diplomacy. His presence underscores Britain's enduring role as a bridge in a volatile world. And William, he's the one carrying that weight. But the real spark didn't end at Windsor's gates. Hours later, a video dropped from William and Catherine themselves, raw, candid, and revealing. They spoke about the shifting balance of royal responsibility, hinting that William's kingship is no longer a distant dream. It's racing toward reality faster than anyone dared admit. Now, before we dive deeper into this unfolding tale, let's pause. This isn't mere speculation, it's monarchy in motion. It's the institution reshaping itself for a future where a king's twilight demands an heir ready to eclipse the sun. William isn't just welcoming dignitaries, he's claiming the stage, with Catherine as his unshakable co-star. And as we move further into this story, you'll see how one autumn afternoon in Windsor paired with that intimate video confession wasn't just news, it was a promise. A glimpse of the crown's next chapter, one that will blend steel with softness, authority with vulnerability. Stay with me, because by the end, you'll feel the crown's weight shifting just a little more firmly onto William's horizon. To truly understand the thunder of William's Windsor moment, we have to rewind. Not to last week, but to the seismic shifts that paved this path. Think back to early 2023, when King Charles's coronation unfolded like a perfectly scripted ballet. Pomp and pageantry on the surface, but beneath it all, a fragile undercurrent. William's words that evening at the coronation concert still echo a pledge of service to king, country, and commonwealth. A vow renewed, spoken with conviction, yet even then, there was subtext. Charles, already 74 at the time of accession, was never the fairy tale sovereign of youth and vigor. His reign, shaped by environmental advocacy and quiet reforms, has been shadowed by whispers of frailty that grew louder with every passing month. By spring 2024, the palace confirmed that the truth: Charles was battling cancer, the type undisclosed, but its grip undeniable. And so Charles stepped back from the spotlight, leaving his spirit to flicker through recorded messages and carefully chosen appearances. Enter William, the ever-steady Prince of Wales, absorbing the weight like a sponge in a storm. His calendar swelled with engagements. From earth-shot prize galas to solemn D-Day, each event became a rehearsal for the solo performance destiny had written for him. Behind closed doors at Adelaide Cottage, insiders whispered of late-night strategy sessions. William pored over policy briefs while Catherine balanced the scales with her signature calm. This wasn't an abrupt shift. It was an architectural handover, built brick by brick, Consider the summer of 2025. When Charles, standing beside William at a Commonwealth summit, spoke in words both veiled and telling. It was a velvet-gloved admission. The torch was being passed, even if quietly. William's portfolio widened: foreign affairs, environmental leadership, even subtle defense briefings once reserved for the sovereign himself. And Catherine, her role evolved too, from supportive consort to confidant-in-chief. Her own recovery from cancer in 2024 gave her a resilience that now fortifies William's every step. Together, they've become the monarchy's forward guard, testing waters where Charles once swam alone. But make no mistake, the poetry of this transition lies not in titles, but in the personal. Those close to William say his growing assumption of duties isn't just duty-ites protection. He's watching his father fight not only illness, but the inevitable tick of time. As one former courtier confessed to Vanity Fair, every handshake William offers carries the echo of Charles's lessons. Rule with heart, lead without distance. And so this Windsor welcome isn't a one-off event. It's the culmination of a quiet coronation in waiting. William's authority doesn't shout, it builds. It builds through deeds, through presence, through poise. When the Kuwaiti prince's motorcade rolled through Windsor's gates, it didn't feel like a courtesy call. It felt like William planting his flag on the hill of history, and with Catherine's knowing glance at his side, the message was clear. The future isn't waiting. The future is here, knocking politely, but firmly at the door. William's first unscripted flex in the throne's antechamber. As the motorcade rolled away and the castle gates swung closed behind the departing guest, Windsor seemed to shrink, as though clearing a space for the heir apparent to step forward. The stillness that followed wasn't emptiness, it was anticipation. The air itself felt charged, as if Windsor's ancient stones were adjusting to a new presence. What the world had just witnessed on the gravel outside was only the surface. The real revelation would arrive not in stone, but in pixels beamed onto screens across the globe. Zoom in on those Windsor hours, and suddenly, every detail unfolds like the overture of a grand symphony. William's hosting wasn't loud or ostentatious. It was deliberate, fortified, a performance of quiet authority. The official Instagram reel, carefully edited yet effortlessly natural, drew over 1 million views in the first hours alone. It opened with sweeping drone shots of Windsor Castle glowing in the autumn sun. Then cut to William at the entrance, his suit sharp, his hair tousled just enough by the wind to appear approachable, not staged. "A pleasure to host His Highness at Windsor," the caption read. Simple words, but beneath them the subtext thundered. The king was not mentioned, not once, no reference to Charles, no echo of the reigning sovereign. His absence hung heavy, like a shadow deliberately cast. Instead, William's baritone voice carried the narration. Calm, steady, and measured, it spoke of strengthening bonds in uncertain times. It was a single sentence, but its resonance was profound in air, not just representing, but embodying statecraft behind those castle doors. Conversations unfolded that insiders say were anything but ceremonial. Reports leaked of security cooperation topping the agenda, with William championing joint counter-terrorism strategies. His military service surge rescue missions in RAF helicopters, nights spent in command centers, lent credibility. He wasn't speaking from a briefing note. He was speaking from lived experience. Catherine's role was no less pivotal. Ever the empath, she steered the dialogue toward humanitarian aid, praising Kuwait's efforts in refugee support and disaster relief. Observers in the room described their rhythm as seamless. When William pressed hard on defense, Catherine softened the exchange with diplomacy, her words threading cultural and humanitarian bonds. One aide confessed it felt like watching a duet, William setting the tempo, Catherine weaving the melody. Together, they commanded the space not as individuals, but as a partnership. And it didn't go unnoticed. The Kuwaiti Crown Prince, smiling after the talks, reportedly remarked that the future shines bright here. A casual comment, perhaps, but in the corridors of power, words ripple. That one line zipped through diplomatic cables, landing in headlines across the Middle East. Still, what fascinated royal watchers most wasn't what the cameras caught, it was what they didn't. Whispers from the palace painted the day as a quiet test. Charles, recovering and cautious, had approved the meeting, but left the stage entirely to William. He was watching, from afar, to see if his son could command the room unaided. One insider told Hella magazine, the king, wanted to know, does William walk into the room as a prince or as a king? The answer, by all accounts, was the latter. The day ended not with fanfare, but with symbolism. William led his guest through Windsor's conservation projects, linking his environmental ethos to international cooperation. As dusk fell, toasts were made to future summits, to deepening ties. Cameras captured the farewell, and then that moment, William and Catherine exchanging a glance. A private glance, but powerful, the kind that spoke of a battle quietly won. This wasn't a diplomatic courtesy. It was a manifesto. Authority expressed not through decrees or crowns, but through competence and alliance. And then, just as the world began to digest Windsor's images, Kensington Palace dropped a second bombshell. A video, not a grand statement, not an official address. Just 3 intimate minutes. Yet it struck harder than any proclamation. The setting? Adelaide Cottage's sunlit study. Bookshelves behind them casting an aura of intellect and continuity. A fire crackling softly, sweaters instead of regalia, a domestic scene more reminiscent of family life than royal duty. This was deliberate, every visual a choice. Today was a milestone. William began, his voice steady but tinged with weight. His eyes blue, clear, unwavering, looked straight into the lens. Not only in welcome, but in the trust we've been building toward greater responsibilities. Beside him, Catherine nodded, her hand brushing lightly against his, a gesture so small, yet in its intimacy, seismic. "It's about stepping forward together," she said, her tone carrying the composure she had honed during her illness and recovery. That experience, painful, humbling now, radiated as her quiet strength. Not once did they say, "Charles," not once did they name the king, but the implication hung in the room like perfume. The crown was shifting, gently but unmistakably. William spoke of adaptation. The monarchy has always evolved, and now, more than ever, we embrace that flow. His words were candid, almost vulnerable, more confessional than royal. Catherine echoed him, reminding viewers that family, not duty alone, anchors their every step. Their synergy wasn't scripted, it was lived. Within hours, the video surged past 5 million views. Social media lit up, comments flooded in with awe, hope, and unease. Analysts scrambled. Robert Jobson called it a velvet glove over an iron fist, preparation disguised as partnership. Ingrid Seward, writing in Majesty magazine, compared William's growing role to Charles in the 1980s, when he too was thrust into solo diplomacy, but this time, the difference was Catherine. Her emphasis on together pointed not to a traditional consort, but to a co-architect of the reign. Insiders whispered of late-night councils at Adelaide Cottage. William and Catherine, side by side, at the kitchen table. Sketching visions of a monarchy reborn, streamlined households, digital outreach, causes amplified over ceremonies. Slimming the firm wasn't a slogan. It was a strategy. And through it all, family remained the heartbeat. William's every word, Catherine's every nod, pulsed with the grounding presence of George, Charlotte, and Louis. Children shielded from spectacle, yet shaping their parents' path. Catherine's line about anchoring amid the tide was no throwaway. It was a promise to protect the family from the weight of crowns. This reimagining isn't cosmetic, it's structural. William's vision mirrors his earth-shot ethos, linear, more efficient, with impact measured in change, not ceremonies. Catherine's agenda leans grassroots, her early years initiatives already reshaping conversations about the monarchy's role in society. Together, they symbolize a monarchy evolving not through crisis, but through choice. The vulnerability of their video was no accident. It was a balm for a weary public, a reassurance that royalty can be human without losing its mystique. Revolutionary restraint, wrapped in sincerity, as the screen faded to black on their shared smile. One truth crystallized. The question is no longer if, but when. And in that moment, viewers weren't watching a couple preparing. They were watching a couple ready. The crown awaits. And the video whispered what Windsor had already shouted. The wait is shorter than we think. It is both seismic and subtle, a crown poised to pass not in chaos, but in choreography, not through scandal, nor through collapse, but through a deliberate handover, almost like a carefully rehearsed symphony. This is not history repeating itself. It is history being rewritten in real time. What lingers after Windsor is not just imagery of castles, handshakes, and smiles. What lingers is the weight of intent. The decisions behind every word, every frame, every silence. That 3-minute video, raw and unguarded, was never just a casual fireside chat. It was a manifesto, a quiet proclamation of power, a promise that the monarchy's future will not only be gilded in heritage, but grounded in humanity. William's words, carefully measured yet piercing, carried the cadence of a man stepping out of his father's shadow. A man who no longer speaks as the waiting heir, but as the king in preparation. Each phrase was deliberate, each pause calculated. He did not speak of vague duties, but of greater responsibilities, and the way he spoke revealed a truthly shadow of the throne is no longer far behind him. It is upon his shoulder. And then Catherine spoke, her voice soft, poised, yet steel-clad slid into his words with quiet authority. She didn't echo him, she completed him. This wasn't the token presence of a consort at her husband's side. This was the presence of a queen, a partner shaping the message, sharing not just the platform, but the vision. For the first time in decades, the monarchy projected something it had long struggled to show. Genuine partnership at its core. This isn't the monarchy of gilded distance. This is a monarchy daring to connect, to reflect the anxieties and hopes of a 21st century world. A monarchy that listens as much as it leads. The Instagram reel that followed already, soaring into millions, set the internet ablaze. Hashtags like hashtag Windsor Wales, hashtag Royal, REBRAND, and hashtag Next in Line dominated global feeds. Analysts dissected every frame. Fans slowed down footage to study Catherine's hand, brushing William's, a subtle but seismic show of unity. Others noted his serious tone, seeing it not as diplomacy, but as foreshadowing. And so, living rooms and timelines across the world buzzed with speculation. Were we witnessing a state visitor, a soft coronation rehearsal? But the Windsor moment is larger than a reel. It is a microcosm of reinvention. William's power does not rest in dominance. It rests in stewardship. He does not impose, he guides. He does not dictate. He builds alliances. This is not weakness. It is strategy. And it is distinctly William. Charles, weathered by the relentless toll of health, has not simply passed on ceremonial duties. He has passed on trust, a symbolic ceding of space that allows his son to step into authority before the throne is his by law. And William has not wasted the opportunity. He has begun shaping the monarchy's contours now knots later, from his environmental advocacy to his Earthshot Prize, from his use of digital platforms to his emphasis on direct connection with the public. William's blueprint is clear, leaner, greener, closer. A monarchy not about grandeur, but about grounding. A monarchy redefined not by crowns and carriages, but by causes and compassion. Catherine's influence runs just as deep. Her work with early years, her honesty about illness and recovery, her empathetic approach to causes, these strands are weaving the portrait of a queen who will lead with both a mother's heart and a strategist's mind. Her presence is not ornamental. It is foundational. Even their choice of residence tells the story. Forest Lodge, privately purchased, is not simply a home, it is a symbol, a rejection of entitlement, a statement of independence. A signal that this monarchy does not just live in palaces, but invests in privacy, stability, and modernity. Their children, George, at 12, Charlotte at 10, Louis at 7, Hoover, at the edges of this narrative. Shielded with deliberate care. School runs over spotlights. Homework over red carpets. These choices are not only parenting decisions, they are policy. A vow to raise heirs who know the world before they inherit it. A vow to raise a generation who understands duty not as privilege, but as service. Even their rejection of live-in staff is deliberate. Their household is not a fortress of protocol, but a family home. A gamble, yes, but a calculated one. A bet that relatability, not remoteness, will revive faith in an institution too often accused of aloofness. And the public's response, electric, posts, and headlines pulsed with admiration. William is ready, Catherine is the queen we need. Their names trend globally, while skeptics mutter about the erosion of tradition. But perhaps erosion is exactly the point. For what is eroded is distance. What remains is connection. What is shed is excess. What survives is essence. This is the threshold, a monarchy reborn, not in pomp, but in purpose. its roots still deep in Windsor soil, but its gaze lifted global, unblinking. William's hosting, Catherine's resolve, their shared candor tell the same story. They are not just stepping up, they are redefining what stepping up means. Charles's reign, fragile and fading, now appears less as a rule and more as a bridge. A passage between two worlds, the monarchy of yesterday and the monarchy of tomorrow. And the pen, once heavy in his hand, now passes quietly, gracefully to a son and daughter-in-law ready to write the next chapter. This crown awaits, and already its weight feels lighter because of their partnership, its brilliance sharper because of their sincerity. And so, the question falls to us. Are we witnessing a monarchy revitalized, a beacon of balance in a fractured world, or a bold break that risks the throne's timeless mystique? What is certain is this. The throne is not just near, it is now. Its pulse is undeniable. So tell us, what do you think? Is William and Catherine's quiet revolution exactly what the monarchy needs? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Hit that like button if you've been gripped by this royal rebrand. Share with your fellow crown chasers. And make sure to subscribe for the next twist in this unfolding saga. Because the Windsor moment was not a single scene. It was a prelude. And the drama, it is only deepening.